That is about classical methods of economic operation of plants, and then optimization problem. So here neglect the transmission losses, optimization problem. Here we have two are there, that is first one is objective function and second one is constant equation. So first we have to know what is objective function and then constant equations. So objective function means the objective function is to minimize the overall cost of production of power generation. Here the objective function is minimize the overall cost of production of power generation to meet the required load demand. So every time we are talking that to minimize the overall cost of generation, that is production, yet to and to satisfy the required load demand. So generally cost in thermal and nuclear stations are nothing but the cost of fuel. If you take thermal plant or nuclear plant, here fuel is the main thing. So let n be the number of units in the system and Ci is the cost of power generation of unit I. Let n be the number of units in the system and Ci is the cost of power generation of unit I. Then the total cost becomes C equal to C1 plus C2 plus C3 plus so on to Cn, because here we are taking n number of units. So every unit has their individual cost. So that if we have 10 units, first unit cost is different, second unit cost is different, up to 10 units there may be different costs. So to get the overall cost, we have to sum these 10 unit costs, so that C is equal to C1 plus C2 plus C3 so on to, here we are assuming the 10 units, so that plus on to plus Cn. This is the total cost. Therefore, the generation cost of the ith unit is a function of real power generation of that unit, and hence the total cost is expressed. So sigma C equal to sigma I equal to 1 to n Ci of Pgi, because we are taking every unit cost. So unit 1 cost, unit 2 cost, up to n unit cost with respect to what power generation, real power generation. So plant 1 have uh, real power generation, that is it may be 10 megawatt, and then plant 2 is, or unit 2 is 20 megawatt, and plant 3 may be 30 megawatt. Like that depends on their respective plant generations, so the cost may be varies. So with respect to generation, we can write that C equal to sigma I equal to 1 to n Ci of Pgi. So if we are separate this individually, that is individual generation plants, then if you take I equal to 1 to n, that is n units, so that Ci becomes C1, Pgi becomes Pg1 for the first unit, and then Ci becomes C2 and Pgi becomes Pg2 for the second unit. Like that up to n units, that is Ci becomes Cn and Pgi becomes Pn, so that we can write C equal to C1 of Pg1 plus C2 of Pg2 plus C3 of Pg3 plus so on to plus Cn of Pgn. So this type of objective function is called a separable objective function. This type of objective function is called a separable objective function. And then objective function is over. Now constant equation. Here we have two types of constraints, that is equality constraint and then inequality constraint. Equality constraint and inequality constraint. First, what is equality constraint? The sum of real power generation of all the various units must always be equal to the total real power demand on the system. So real power generation of various units must be equal to the total real power demand on the system. Here real power demand nothing but PD, that is load demand, and real power generation nothing but PDI. So always we are taking that I equal to 1 to n units. So a n may be 10 or 20 or depends on the units. So PD equal to sigma I equal to 1 to n PGI. Now this PD comes to this generation side, then it becomes sigma I equal to 1 to n PGI. This plus PD becomes minus PD is equal to 0. So this where sigma I equal to 1 to n PGI is total real power generation and PD is the total real power demand. So this equation 1 is known as the real power balance equation when losses are neglected, because here in equality constant we are neglecting the losses. So whenever the losses are not there, then generation should be equal to the demand. So that this equation is known as the real power balance equation. Now inequality constraint. So these constraints are considered in an economic power system operation due to the physical and operational limitations of the units and components. So further, these inequality constraints are classified as according to nature and power system parameters. In nature type, there is a hard type constant and soft type constant. So in nature type, what are the hard type constant and soft type constant? So in power system parameters, it may first in nature type there may be hard type constant and soft type constant. So first, what is hard type constant? So these constraints are definite and specific in nature. No flexibility will take place in violating these type of constraints, because these constraints are already fixed in nature. So we cannot violate or change this type of constraint. So for example, if we take example, the range of tapping of an on-load tap changing transformer. So we cannot change the range of tapping for an on-load tap changing transformer. This comes under hard type constraint. Now soft type constraint. So these constraints have some flexibility with them in violating. So whereas in hard type constraint we cannot violate or change the things, but here these constraints have some flexibility to change the particular things. If we take example, magnitude of node voltage and the phase angle between them. So we can control that, we can change the voltages and phase angles by controlling the system. So this comes under soft type constraint. So this is hard type and soft type constraints in nature type. Now according to power system parameters, so inequality constraints are output power constraint, voltage magnitude and phase angle constraint, dynamic constraint, spare capacity constraint, branch transfer capacity constraint, transformer tap position or setting constraint, a transmission line constraint, and security constraint. So like that, different basic constraints are there in what power system parameters constraints. That is, first one is output power constraint. Each generating unit should not operate above its rating or below maximum generation. Here each generating unit should not operate above its rating or below minimum generation. So this minimum value of real power generation is determined from the technical feasibility. That is, we have minimum limit and maximum limit. So that here for real power generation we can write PGI minimum less than or equal to PGI less than or equal to PGI maximum. So similarly for reactive power, if you can write reactive power as QGI minimum less than or equal to QGI maximum, QGI minimum less than or equal to QGI less than or equal to QGI maximum. Whereas in real power generation, PGI minimum less than or equal to PGI less than or equal to PGI maximum. So where I equal to 1 to up to n units. Like that, this comes under output power constraint. Now second one is voltage magnitude and phase angle constraint. So for maintaining better voltage profile and limiting overloadings, it is essential that the bus voltage magnitude and phase angle at various buses should vary within the limits to get the better voltage profile. and avoid the overloadings, we have to maintain that the bus voltage magnitude and phase angles should vary, should maintain within the limits. So that is here also we have minimum limit, maximum limit for voltage and angles. So for voltage we can write VA minimum less than or equal to VA less than or equal to VA maximum. Here also I equal to 1 to up to n units. And then whereas coming for angle, that is delta Ij minimum, phase angle delta Ij minimum less than or equal to delta Ij less than or equal to delta Ij maximum. Here also I equal to 1 to 7 up to n units. So this is also strictly maintained in the minimum and maximum limits. So this is the voltage magnitude and phase angle constraint. Next, third one is dynamic constraint. These constraints may consider when fast changes in generation are required for picking up the shutting down or increasing of load demand. It may be sudden increase in load demand, or due to some problem it may be shutting down. So these are all comes under dynamic constraint. There is a, if there is a possible in sudden change or sudden fault, then this comes under dynamic constraint. So these constraints are of the are can write in the, so dynamic means there is a sudden change. That's why here we are writing with dpgit by dt, that is the rate of change of generation with respect to time. So dpj of t dt in minimum less than or equal to dpj of t by dt less than or equal to dpj of by t by dt maximum, that is rate of change of generation with respect to time in minimum, in between minimum and maximum limit. Similarly, if we can write the reactive power generation, this is also rate of change of reactive power generation with respect to time, that is dqgi of t by dt minimum less than or equal to dqj of t by dt less than or equal to dqj of t by dt maximum. So here the rate of change of reactive power generation with respect to time are also maintained minimum and maximum limits. So this is dynamic constraint. So then spare capacity constraint. What is spare capacity constraint? These constraints are required to meet the following criteria. That is, first one is errors in load prediction. That is, we have to predict the errors in what are the errors may occur in future, and how can we can reduce that error or minimize that error. And second one, the unexpected and fast changes in load demand. If there is any chance to get the unexpected change in load, or is there any deviation in the load, we have to calculate that in time. And then third one, unplanned loss of schedule generation, that is the forced outage of one or more units on the system. That is, if you have 3 units in the system, there may be fault or any problem occurred in the system. It may be chance to break the one or more units, that is one or more generators or one or more operation system may be disconnected. Then for that time also we have to plan or note the correct schedule generation, so that the total power generation at any time must be more than the total load demand and system losses by an amount not less than a specified minimum spare capacity. So that if it is happened, then the power generation will be less and demand may be increased. So it would not be happen, so that we have maintained the spare capacity constraint, that is Pg greater than or equal to Pd plus PL plus PSP, where Pg is the total real power generation and Pd plus PL is the total load demand and system loss, and PSP is the specified minimum spare power. To avoid this sudden changes or any fault occurs in load demand, we have to maintain some specified minimum spare power. So it is indicated with the PSP. So this is spare capacity constraint. And then branch transfer capacity constraint. So what is branch transfer capacity constraint? Thermal considerations may require that the transmission line be subjected to branch transfer capacity constraint. So here, if we want to change the if we want to change that power generation to other branch or to other bus, then we have to maintain this also in minimum and maximum limits, so that thermal considerations also may require that transmission line be subjected to branch transfer capacity constraint, that is SI minimum less than or equal to SBI less than or equal to SI maximum. Here B indicates with the branch transfer capacity. So this is also maintained in minimum and maximum limits. That's why we are writing SI minimum less than or equal to SPI less than or equal to SBI maximum, where I equal to 1, 2, 3 up to n units, where n is the number of branches and SBI is the ith branch transfer capacity in MVA. So this is branch transfer capacity constraint. And then transformer tap position or setting constraint. The tap positions or setting of a transformer, it is indicated with T, must lie within the available range. So here also the tap position setting of transformer should be within the minimum and maximum limits. So here the transformer tap setting indicated with the T. That's why here we are writing T minimum less than or equal to T less than or equal to T maximum. So for an auto transformer, we all know that the tap setting constraints are 0 less than or equal to T less than or equal to 1. Definitely, strictly we have to maintain in between the 0 and 1. Here where minimum tap is 0 and maximum tap setting is 1. Like that, for a 2-winding transformer, tap setting constraints are 0 less than or equal to T less than or equal to K, where K is the transformer turns ratio. If we take for phase shifting transformer, the constraints are the theta I. This is because phase shifting means here indicates with angle theta, so that theta I minimum less than or equal to theta I less than or equal to theta I maximum, where theta I is the phase shift obtained from the ith transformer. So next one is transmission line constraint. So what is transmission line constraint? The active and reactive power flowing through the transmission line is limited by the thermal capability of the circuit. So here the thermal capability is also more important to transfer that particular real power generation or reactive power generation. What is the thermal capability of the particular line? So that here the indicates with the thermal capability TC. So that's why we are writing TCI less than or equal to TCI maximum, because it has maximum thermal capability. So the active power reactive power flowing this particular transmission line, it should be less than or equal to TCI maximum. So where TCI maximum is the maximum loading capacity of the ith line. So this is transmission line constraint. Now final one is security constraint. For power system security and power flows between certain important buses are also considered for the solution of an optimization problem. Power system security and power flow between the buses are also considered for the solution of optimization problem. If we take, when a large system is under study, the network security is maintained such that the computation is to be made with the outage of one branch at one time, and then the computation of a group of branches or units at another time. So by taking this computation, so whenever there is a fault or there is a change in system is happened, then we can easily predict the how can we neutralize the particular fault. That's why security constraint is also important. So these are all comes under this basic constraint, that is inequality constraints.